Hey, Wagwan Raptors family. It's episode 7 of the It's a Raptors Ting podcast. And this week's episode is entitled Victory Lap. So, not gonna lie, still, I came on here to do a victory lap and just kind of rub that bronze medal in the face of a Team USA that did not even place in a medal in the FIBA World Cup tournament for 2023. Ultimately, the outcome, Canada won. Some great outside shooting from Dillon Brooks, RJ Barrett, and of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Canada's got its own little FIBA World Cup Big Three going on there. But nonetheless, they did what they had to do. They came out, they were aggressive. They were the more aggressive team. You could tell that they were the team that wanted it more. And it was nice to see, considering that, and again, it's no real surprise that, Germany won. I mean, I feel like the German team, they've probably been playing together for quite some time. A lot of those teams over there in Europe have a lot more experience playing together, and they've been playing together for longer. Whereas one thing that Canada and Team USA have in common is that they kind of scramble their guys together, especially Team USA, a ragtag group of mostly C-list NBA players, barring a few exceptions. But nonetheless, Canada, they came out, they did what they had to do. And, hey, Dillon Brooks, he said it at one point in reference to LeBron. He was like, I don't respect no one until they come give me 40. Well, Dillon Brooks didn't give you Team USA 40, but this man, he dropped 39 points on Team USA's head top, man. I mean, that was one hell of a game. Ultimately, at the end of the previous NBA season, everyone in the States and Canada included, and myself included, the scholar baller himself was also joking around with making these Shanghai Sharks jokes about Dillon Brooks possibly not getting re-signed to a NBA team and, potentially having to go overseas. And hey, I guess Dillon Brooks did end up going overseas, but it was just in a totally different fashion that the general public, most of us within the general public, did not quite fathom. But nonetheless, he was out here giving everybody the business the entire tournament. When you think about what he was doing defensively, and even in the clinching game, he definitely showed us that he's got one hell of an offensive bag. So it'll be interesting to see Dillon Brooks play next season. I'm not going to say too much more, but the international competition is growing. It's definitely growing. And, I said it last video, and I'll say it again, this ragtag group of NBA guys, these C-listers that Team USA is putting out, they're a bunch of scrubs. A bunch of scrubs, okay? Might as well put that team in a hospital. I mean, just bunch of scrubs. Steve Kerr is gonna come out in the preliminary stages of the of the match. Before the matchup for the game happened, and he said something along the lines of, "Well, it's not 1992 anymore." Well, of course it's not 1992 anymore, but that's not an excuse. What does that say about you as a coach, Steve Kerr? I mean, do you need to have the best players in order to win? Do you need to have the greatest three-point shooter of all time? Arguably the second greatest three-point shooter of all time? One of the greatest scorers back when you had Kevin Durant on your squad? Do you really need to have that super team, small ball lineup of death, as they used to call it, in order to win something? I'm just saying, I think Steve Kerr he's a great X's and O's guy, but ultimately, I will say there's one thing to really keep in mind here. Of course, when you compare the championship dynasty Warriors and that starting lineup to FIBA America team, or rather FIBA Team USA 2023, their World Cup squad, there's definitely a talent drop-off in favor of the Warriors. But nonetheless, the Warriors had enough NBA talent to at least get a medal. They should have at least gotten a medal. That was pretty disgraceful for them to come home empty-handed, like a dog with the tail in between its legs, as the old phrase goes. But I'm glad, it's a humbling experience, and it's a good thing. All I know is in the 2024 Summer Olympic Games, I'm definitely going to tune into the basketball matchups, because Team USA might have a Redeem Team 2.0 situation going on here. There's been rumblings around LeBron wanting to make a return, and apparently Steph Curry coming out to play for Team USA. I mean, I feel like Steph, just on a side note, I feel like Steph Curry's always been hella overlooked by Team USA. You think like that the second greatest point guard of all time, the only person that I would personally put ahead Steph is probably Magic Johnson. But for me, the scholar baller, I'll go on record and say that Steph is number 2 all time in terms of point guards. But the second greatest point guard of all time has just kind of been largely overlooked by USA basketball. And yeah, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But ultimately, it would be interesting, very, very interesting, to see how that matchup would look and what would transpire during that time where Team USA is matching up against these squads in the 2024 Olympics with with their A-list team. You would need at least LeBron, Steph, and KD to come back. Maybe a couple other guys. Just something to really boost up your roster, because that really was not a good look. Well, that's it for this week's episode of the It's a Raptors Ting podcast. Just a little victory lap around the FIBA World Cup game. Hey, I told you that Canada would come through with the bronze, so my prediction is solidified. No one should question my position in the game. Done know, saying it's a Raptors Ting. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out a lot in the algorithm. Big ups to the Toronto the Toronto fam, all that and then some. Take care, everyone.